Hello and welcome to the Make Money with Mace podcast. I'm your host Mace and we are talking more NFL football. Week 16 underway and had a bit of a bounce back-ish weekend where it went positive, 3-2-1. Definitely needed that just in general. Nice little bounce back. Nice little going positive and just being like, okay, what I've learned, what the numbers are telling me, what I've watched is not fake. It's real. Sometimes you just need to see that. You need to see Detroit absolutely pummel Denver. You need to see Miami hold the Jets scoreless. You need to see those things, And so just getting into it, I'm going to look for more of the same. Some straightforward matchups this week. Some big spreads, some low totals, that sort of thing. But I think it's well-earned big spreads, well-earned totals, things like that. So without further ado, let's get right into it. New Orleans Saints at Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are 4.5-point favorite or a 4-point favorite, depending on where you're betting. And I am going to take the Rams, sort of no hesitation. I know that the Saints defense is really pretty good, but they've really only performed well against some bad teams of late. Like, I'm not... don't mind me if I'm not particularly impressed by the covering against Tommy DeVito and the Carolina Panthers and, not like... The Saints, two most recent wins, there's a bit of recency bias and people just assume the Saints will be pretty good because of the uniforms. They're sort of have a Patriots effect. But their last win against a team above 500, at or above 500, was when they beat the Colts 38-27. They've after they beat the Colts 38-27, they beat Tyson Bagent on Thursday Night Football. And no, not on Thursday night, on Sunday. They beat Tyson Bagent, and then they lose to Minnesota, lose to Atlanta, lose to Detroit, and then beat Carolina, beat the Giants. So just their trend of being really pretty bad against good teams, I think, is going to continue. I think the coaching mismatch is very, very real. And I think just their general trends on the season, they're 4-10 against the spread, or 4-9 against the spread. So they don't cover even when they're losing, they don't cover. Lost to Houston 13-20. Lose to Jacksonville by a touchdown. They get pretty favorable lines for all things considered, and they just never seem to be able to cover them when they're faced with better competition. So, with all that being said, the Rams are playing good ball of late, winning 4 of their last 5, which is obviously very, very good, coming off a 3-game loser, some Matt Stafford injury stuff, just not playing particularly well, but they've bounced back nicely, putting up tons of points, right? So, 37 against the Cardinals, 36 against Cleveland, 31 against Baltimore, 28 against Washington. Washington could have been more, for sure, if they really were pushing it, but they were up big most of that game. So it's not really their offense is just humming, and I think it will continue to hum, especially what they were able to do against good defenses like Cleveland and Baltimore. And Baltimore on the road putting up 31 is very impressive. So with all that being said, I think the Rams are going to cover this game pretty easily, and it's going to be my best bet tonight. So, moving on to the next game down the docket. We got the Cincinnati Bengals as 2-point favorites against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and 1.5 depending on where you're betting. And this is a weird game because Jake Browning... Was Jake Browning's first start against Pittsburgh, or was it AJ McCarron? Jake Browning... first start, because so he was 19-26 for 227, touchdown and a pick, 16-10 loss to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh seems to have quit though without Kenny Pickett in the lineup. It's going to be either Mason Rudolph or Mitch Trubisky, and I think it's probably going to be Mason Rudolph. And just with it being Mason Rudolph and the offense not functioning and all sorts of things, I think Pittsburgh is just going to end up losing this game. I mean, sure, TJ Watt might go crazy, but I don't know. It's a weird game. I don't really love the total because since he just plays in crazy games of late, they play in crazy games all the time, right? They're 8-6 to the over. They're 6-6-2 against the spread, 3-3 away. Actually, that's pretty indicative. They're 5-3 at home, 3-3 away. So if you want to look at any sort of trend, look at that. I mean, Pittsburgh doesn't really help. They're 3-3 away, 4-4 at home. They're just mid everywhere they go. But I think what you're seeing is they lose to Arizona, they lose to New England, they lose to Indy, they lose to Cleveland 10-13. Like they just haven't really done very well for themselves. Excuse me. And then they haven't done very well for themselves, and I just think that maybe since he's probably going to win this game, obviously no Jamar Chase makes things difficult, but I don't know. Pittsburgh's bad vibes. That's a Saturday game as well, so I'll have a bet on it for the 2 Saturday games. But I don't know what it'll be. It might be the total, might be a spread, might be one last Mike Tomlin as a home dog, as a home dog for the road sort of thing. But once some more information comes out about the games, I'll probably have something for it. Which leads us to Buffalo at the Chargers. Buffalo's going to kill them. I think kill them badly. So the over-under for this game is 44, which I think they're assuming that the Chargers aren't going to score, which is valid. So I'm going to take Buffalo to cover. It opened at 13.5. It's sort of simmered to 11.5, 12.5. So I'm going to take Buffalo in this game. I just think they're going to kill them, and it's not going to be particularly close. No Justin Herbert. It's going to be Easton Stick. Potentially Will Grier, only because Grier has played well, or has played with Kellen Moore, who just picked up off the Patriots practice squad. So I think that Buffalo is just going to kill the Chargers. I don't think it's much else going on there. So opening up, we got Indy at Atlanta. Taylor Heineke is the starter, and that swung the spread to Atlanta's favor. This game's gross. There's nothing else to it. This is just a gross football game. I don't know. It's pretty bad. Indy at Atlanta, pretty bad. I'm going to have to go with... Like, if I were to pick this game, it'd be Indy because they've played well. They've done well for themselves. But this is the type of game where Atlanta hooks you back in. That's what they've done all year. They're a bunch of sickos, those Atlanta Falcons. They will lose the most baffling games. Like, if they finish on a 3-game win streak, they might just win. They might just win out. It'd be really funny. Like, they lose to Tampa Bay 25-29. They lose 7-9. But they won 13-8. They won 24-15. But then they have a 3-game loser right in the middle of that. They're a weird team, man. I know Heineke's starting, but I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. And none of this. I've got to stay away from that game. It's Atlanta. Like, they're bizarre. Green Bay at Carolina. So, Green Bay is a 5-point favorite. I agree with that. I think Green Bay is going to win this pretty soundly. I think that would be a really... It should be like, I like the Jersey matchup. That would be nice. But I think Green Bay is just going to bounce back. I think they're just a young team going through young team things. And with a clear and obvious... Like, at the Giants was a pretty obvious win. Tampa Bay is not that obvious of a win. I think the defense will have a bounce back performance. I think, just in general, like, Carolina won 9-7. It's the NFL. You never know. They might have a win in them. But I do think that Green Bay is pretty dang good. Like, for such a young team, I think they're going to be all right. I think they're going to be able to play well against Carolina. So that might be the case. I think that 4.5 is a fair line. I think the total's pretty low, and I honestly take it just because Green Bay... Like Rashawn Gary can just ruin the game. Obviously, Carolina has played better at home. Have to acknowledge that, and Green Bay's played pretty poor away. The total is 36. Honestly, I might take the over in this game. Green Bay's 8-6 to the over. And Carolina they are 4-10 to the over and under, but they've hit it. They hit it last against Tampa Bay, 18-21. I think Bryce was actually playing decent football before that Saints game. As crazy as that sounds. But I just think that the number is within reach. I really do. So, thinking about that, we're going to have, obviously, it slated more concretely as we approach game day. Yeah, it's a weird game. Might take the over. 36 is pretty light. It's something Green Bay potentially could cover on their own. So that's what we got there. Cleveland at Houston under. Case Keenum, Joe Flacco under. I'm just saying these names out loud and reinforcing it. What is the actual number, though? 40? That's far too high. That's far too high. So those are my thoughts on that. I think that the under is very real. It was at 42. It's dropped to 40. It might drop even further, especially with the Case Keenum news. And while Cleveland is 7-6-1 to the over, they have hit the over actually in. Oh, they've hit it twice in their past. No, they haven't. Excuse me. They hit it 3 games in a row. 36, 39.5, 37, but that was all sub 30. I think it's Case Keenum against this Cleveland defense. Obviously, Cleveland is bad at home, or bad away from home, bad away. Houston's very good at home, but they don't go over very often. They are 5-9 to the over. They're 3-7 in their last 10. So I expect that trend to continue. Obviously, Cleveland's gotten lit up a bit, and their overs were set so low that was pretty easy to go over for them. Like when they beat Baltimore 33-31, like that was a bizarre game. But I can picture this game being really pretty tight. It has massive playoff implications. I just don't see anybody running particularly wild besides maybe Amari Cooper, and I think Cleveland's defense, especially if Nico Collins isn't going, CJ's not going, obviously no Tank Dell there, so I think it's going to be a really hard game for Houston. Obviously Cleveland's defense is banged up, but I don't know. I just think that the quarterbacks are who they are, and we're not going to see much excitement from them. So that's my take on that. Seattle at Tennessee. I don't know if the Nashville stuff's going to work out anymore, guys. They're now 4-2 in Nashville. This game's weird. I think Seattle's just better than them, but they're really bad away from home. So this could be a classic Vrabel win spot. But yeah, Tennessee's 4-2 at home. They're 1-6 on the road. Seattle's 2-5 away, 5-2 at home. I think that it might just be as simple as bet the home team here. Home dog, Vrabel. He does stuff like that, man. He's really pretty good. So that's what I'm thinking for this one. I think Tennessee is, like, Seattle's not better. Seattle is a better team. But if Geno's healthy, then maybe. But if he's not, like, if he starts looking bad, you might just want to, like, take the live bet of this game. Then we get to Washington at the Jets. Oh, what's the over-under for this game? What is the over-under for the Jets? Good God. Jets commies. That's not a fun matchup. 37? Why? So this is like a classic, like, okay, Washington defense is so bad. But the Jets offense is so bad. And man, like, I will say this though, Washington's 3-5 on the road. They might win. They might mess around and win this game. Who's playing quarterback for the Jets? I just need to go to PFF for a second to find the starting lineup. PFF lineup, because if Jonathan Allen, oh my God, so if Jonathan Allen is playing against the frickin', this could get ugly for the Jets. This could get worse before it gets better for the Jets. I need to see lineup, projected starters. There we go. Personnel base. They're doing a stupid 3-5 with the 18. Yeah, lineup. Like, this is just a complaint I have. This is nerd football stuff. I'm going on a tangent right now. I really do not like when people say base defense, and it's this weird 3-4, right? No one plays 3-4 anymore. 3-4 is so beyond outdated. Maybe that's why the Commanders are so bad. Like, if you want to get a good look of what a defense actually is in the NFL now, you got to look at nickel or 4-3 units, because sometimes they'll have the hybrid linebacker as like part of the 4-3. But typically 11 personnel is trotted out so much, and just shotguns trotted out so much, and speed is such a commodity So like you obviously have 3 receivers, 1 tight end, maybe just have 2 backs. Like you have reasons to play 2 backers, and for whatever reason, they'll have like base be like 3-4. And it's just like you have no speed on the field. No one plays 3-4 like this anymore besides bad defenses. Maybe that's part of the problem. However, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about freaking New York Football Jets. All right, here we go. You'll see their defense lined up against their offense. So, yeah, their offensive line's horrible. I mean, Garrett Wilson's really good. Alan Lazard's really bad. Is Zachy Wilson playing? That's the big question, because I could see Breece Hall doing well. They have a fundamentally bad run fit. But they might be doing like max protect stuff. I can see Zach Wilson having a decent. I cannot see Trevor Siemian having a good game. Not at this point of his career. Injury status, Zachy Wilson. He's still in concussion protocol, so in all likelihood, is Zach Wilson in concussion protocol? December 20th, updated December 20th, 2023 at 5:03 p.m. Zach Wilson was not a participant. So holy shit, it's gonna. Sorry, I swore. I don't like swearing on this podcast. I started to swear. I apologize. Trevor Siemian in the New York Jets offensive line, which is horrible. Lining up, like bare minimum, Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen are really capable of just wrecking shop. They are capable of playing really good football. Kendall Fuller's had a really good season as a corner for Washington. He'll be following Garrett Wilson all over the place. Cameron St. Juste isn't bad. But it's just going to be like a really... Like, what actually breaks here? Because if any... Like, not for nothing. I know Jacoby Brissett came in the game. I don't know what the... Like, Jacoby Brissett might be able to just, like, do stuff. I think Sam Howell's still going to be starting. And contrary to popular belief, the Washington offensive line isn't bad. Like, Sam Howell takes a zillion sacks, and that's not good. But it's just like Sauce and DJ Reed are both very good. And, like, obviously this defense has been awesome all year, but, like, Sauce and DJ Reed are going to be able to play on the outside. I don't really know what their strategy is going to be for Curtis Samuel, who might be able to do some stuff. De'Ami Brown might be able to do some stuff. Yeah, Michael Carter too. Like the Jets defense is really pretty awesome, and it's a shame that they're having to deal with this, like this offense, that offense. Like, what are we doing here? It's like C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams have been amazing. Quinnen Williams has been himself. Jermaine Johnson's had a breakout year. Bryce Huff's been really, really good. So it's like you have all this breakout play happening all over the place on this defense. It's just wasted. And I said a lot to say. The Jets' offense is like, if the over is not low enough to take it, like take the under. Like it is. Excuse me, I'm stumbled all over myself. 37 is very, very high for a team that was just shut out. I don't care how bad the defense is. 30, like this should not be 37. It should be like 34, 35. Like, I don't really trust either team to do anything properly, but I will say the difference is that Washington plays better away from home. And this game is in the Meadowlands, which they do not play well in. They lost to the Giants twice. So, I don't know. This game's going to be gross. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Game I will be touching with a 10-foot pole, and I'll be touching to cover Detroit Lions as a 3-point favorite in Minnesota. They're giving Minnesota a lot of credit here. I think Detroit is just going to win. I think 3.5 is a perfect amount for them, and I think that they're just going to win this game pretty handedly. Not really have much to talk about. Nick Mullins is just not good enough at all. So, you know, I just think that Nick Mullins, like, it'd be such a different game if Kirk was there. It'd be such an electric game if Kirk was the QB. But man, he's not. And I think that mini. Um, I think that mini is probably gonna not. Mini, like, they're pretty hot to trot, like, oh, pick 'em, pick 'em, pick 'em. They play hard, all that. I think Detroit might just maul their defense because their defense is it plays spectacularly well for an undermanned unit, but that's exactly what they are. It's an undermanned unit. So, with that being the case, I think Detroit's just going to win this game. I don't think there's much else to it. Detroit's better against the spread, better offense, not a better defense. Justin Jefferson might do stuff. Jordan Addison might do stuff, but I don't think that will be enough to cover 3. So that's what I've got. Jacksonville at Tampa Bay. This is a pick-em in some places. Jacksonville's a 1-point dog in some cases. I'm going to take Jacksonville. Why not? Tampa Bay's not as good as Baltimore. They're not as good as Baltimore at all. They're getting treated like they are. Minus 102 money line. Yeah, I'm going to take that. See if it moves at all. All right. Now time for the real fun game. So Dallas at Miami. So there's a stat last week where it's just like, if for a team with as good a record as Dallas had at 10-3, being an underdog this late into the season, they're an underdog for a reason. Dallas is bad away from home. Miami is great at home. Legitimately, like 3-4 away, 7-0 at home. Miami at least is 4-2 away and 6-1 at home. Like their other losses to the Chiefs and Germany, for crying out loud. And Tyreek Hill back. I know that Miami's offensive line is a pretty dangerous thing. But their defense has played very well. I think Vic Fangio has done a really good job getting the unit to really play better than their talent level. And I think that we'll continue to see that. I think Miami can cover this pretty easily. 1.5, but I do think the over will hit 50.5. It's quite a bit. Actually, I don't know, because Dallas on the road, they don't score. So Dallas has scored they do all of their bludgeoning at home. So they lose 10, and they have issues defending the run. They really do. If they get you in like passing situations and everything, then yeah, they'll maul you. But man, like only 10 points in Buffalo. Beating Carolina 33-10 doesn't move me. They only put up 23 against a really bad Philly defense. They only put up 20 in San Diego, LA. Holy crap, I forgot about that. So that game looks worse and worse and worse the farther you get away from it. Only 20 points against that defense, against that team. Crying out loud. So, I don't... and Miami's just cooking. Like, yeah, they lost at Tennessee 27-28. That was a crazy game. Crazy game. But nothing like beating up on a... Like... They've won some gritty games at home, too. It's not just all one way. Like, they win 30-0. Then they beat New England 31-17. They beat Vegas 20-13. Like, they can win in very different ways. The defense is playing very, very well. And I think that Miami's just going to do the damn thing. 1.5 points. Give me that. And then it leads us to Arizona at Chicago, which is a very depressing game. I do think the over is going to hit, though. 43.5. Why not? Why not? Cardinals are 8-6 to the over. Bears are 7-7 to the over. I mean, it's just a totally why not over. 2 fun quarterbacks. Some pretty good offenses. Not bad at all. So, that's what I'm thinking. Oh, I love the over in that game. 43? Come on now. Even with, like, Kyler's playing. Like, that number has Kyler in mind. And then we get to Sunday Night Football, which is very depressing. New England at Denver. So New England historically just has never played well in Denver. I remember, like, losing to Jake Plummer when the Patriots, I say losing like I'm on the team. I remember when the Patriots lost to Jake Plummer in Denver all the way back in 2006. Or 2005, rather. That was, like, one of the first playoff games I was, like, really, like, knew what was going on, like, really super invested in. Besides, like, in terms of, like, knowledge of the team, things like that. It's, like, 9 years old or whatever. But I think that that game was pretty like that game has no bearing on this one, absolutely, but that was like Belichick at the peak of his powers. The roster, especially defensively, was still fantastic. And then you end up with, this current Patriots roster going to the altitude. Denver's going to win by a lot. I think Denver's defense ran into a buzzsaw. I think Denver's defense is not, like, they're not real, but I think that they're like a Patriots defense from last year where, like, they run into a good team and then they just, like, collapse a little bit. But when they play bad teams or average teams, they look really dynamic and can take the ball away and do a lot of creative things. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just think that's how they roll. So I like Denver in this one. It opened at 5.5. It's not 6.5. Denver can cover a touchdown. The Patriots have run out of cornerbacks. So they've run out of corners against a team that has pretty good receivers. The defense hasn't quit yet, but it seems like they might be close. It really does. It just seems like they'll get, like, it's just frustrating for the defense because they have played well. You can't run on them at all. Like, they're playing super hard for Gerard Mayo and Steve and Bill at this point. Like, who knows if they're still playing for Bill. But with how the team talks about players who leave. So I think Denver's just going to take care of business. The over-under in this game is 34.5, which don't take the over. Don't take the over at all. And I think, like, with Bailey Zappi, it's like he's played... he can't do a complete game, but I think as more and more and more tape gets out on him, I think we're going to see, like, a really pretty catastrophic performance win one of these games. I think we'll see it this game and Buffalo. So, yeah, I think we're going to see some bad play. This game, Buffalo, and the Jets, the last 3 games. So I think that if you want to take the under, you can go ahead. It's a very Iowa-type under, but I think we'll hit. So that's what I'm thinking there. Vegas at Kansas City, Christmas Day, 1 o'clock game. So Kansas City I don't like as a 10-point favorite in this game at all. Actually I do. I like it a lot more now. Raiders 1-5 away from home. Kansas City has not been great at home, but 1-5 away from home is pretty indicative of who you are. The one thing is that the Raiders are 7-5-2 against the spread, and last time they were, it was in Arrowhead, 31-17. That's about right. Oh, excuse me, that game was in Vegas. So, like, Kansas City's just owned them. Their last win was in 2020, 40-32. That was a crazy John Gruden era sort of game. But Vegas is sort of impossible to read. You might want to put Kansas City in moneyline parlay. You don't know how real that... the offense didn't really do much in the 63-point game, which is what's crazy, right? The offense, like, there's turnovers, there's lots of defensive touchdowns, there's short fields, all that stuff. I don't think Kansas City is going to afford the Raiders that, and just based on recent history and the talent disparity, especially, like, defense to offense and offense to defense, I think that, especially if Isaiah Pacheco's back, because that'll make a huge difference. And we'll know by then, obviously, if Isaiah Pacheco's back. So I think Kansas City to cover is pretty good. I like the over in this game. Last time they played it was 31-17. Vegas plays hard. They've got dudes. I think they can figure it out coming off a break. Like, I think they'll be fresh. I think they'll punch them in the mouth. But it won't be more than that. So over under 41. Kind of like the over in that. Takes us to the midday Christmas Day game. New York Giants at Philadelphia Eagles. Very Philly Christmas. I think I'll just take, again, like, bad defense. That's what the Philly is. Really bad defense. I think I like the over in this one. It's pretty low. I know that the Philly hasn't really been moving the ball that much, but I think the over has gone really pretty low for that as well. Give me a second. Let me find it real quick. I was saying I like the over 42.5. So we need 23-20. Does this game have 23-20? Does this game have 23-20. I'll sit on it. I'll let you know by Christmas Eve. I'll let you know by Christmas Eve what I think of this game. And that takes us to Baltimore at San Francisco. So, Baltimore, pretty damn good. 5-2 at home, 5-1 away, 9-5 against the spread, 11-3. We got the number one seed visiting the number one seed of a 5-1 at home, 6-2 away, 7-6-1 against the spread team. Or excuse me, that was over the over/under. San Fran's 8-6 against the spread. So San Fran's a 5.5 point favorite, which makes sense. I think that San Fran, they're a points machine. I will say this. I will be as fair as possible. I don't think San Fran has faced a good defense since Cleveland. Or, excuse me. I don't think they faced a great defense since... They haven't faced a good defense since Minnesota. They have not faced a great defense since Cleveland. I think Baltimore does have a great defense. I think they do a great job just, like, holding it down, making things hard for everybody. I think they can be confusing. I think you see that it takes special teams with special players, special coaches, play callers, all that stuff to really make them work. And I can see Justin Madubuike ruining the game from the inside and making Brock Purdy like really, really work. And if that's the case, it'll be a tighter game than people anticipate. But if that's not the case, we're just gonna see some San Fran continuing to dominate. I mean, they have dominated. Like, it's hard to take a game where they beat up on Arizona too seriously, or beat up on Drew Lock too seriously. Them thrashing Philly, like, we know what Philly is now. They're not very good. So they just haven't really played anybody this entire season. It's kind of crazy how they drew it. Right? Like, was Tampa the division winner last year? Yeah, they were. They got Tampa. They faced Jacksonville. What was the 49ers schedule? Who'd they play early? Oh, yeah, the last like team on the last team that was on the Ravens level that they faced was the Bengals with Joe Burrow, and they lost 31-17. I know there was no Trent and Debo, but, you know, no Trent and Debo should not be enough for 31-17 barely functional offense. It'll be interesting. I do kind of like the over. The over's pretty low. It's 46.5, right? So basically, you're looking for a pretty even game, like 27-20 cover, like gets that over, right? 24-23 gets that over. And you just have to ask yourself, it's like, do either of these teams have 30 points in them in this game? And does their opponent have at least 17? Obviously, Baltimore is a little dinged up. But I do think Baltimore, like, their defense is just sound, man. Like, they hold Justin Herbert to 10 points. They beat up on Jacksonville 23-7. I know that Trevor's hurt, and I know that Jacksonville's missing dudes, but still, beat them up. They had weird moments against, like, Cleveland, but they can just thrash. They can thrash teams that are not familiar with them. And that's what they did to Seattle. That's what they did to Detroit. The Rams actually held their own better than anybody has in terms of a team that's not familiar with them. So with all that being said, I think we can see, you know, they'll look into some more stats, but this game should be awesome. I can't wait to watch it. Christmas Day, all that stuff. Flipping between this and West Coast NBA. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I know that bull season hasn't really started for me yet. Because I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to tell people to go bet on, like, you know, I got to tell people to bet on random stuff. I like that Western Kentucky ODU. Crazy. Crazy. Could never tell them to bet on that. What I will tell people to bet on is I might do a little little college NFL parlay day. When it comes to Saturday, there's also good Utah, my guys, facing Northwestern. My dogs at Allegiant in Vegas. They're not about that at all. Northwestern is not. All kidding aside, I think it should be a pretty fun bowl season. Got to bet on Utah one last time. Got to bet on JMU. Like, there's so many fun games happening. And during the week in between, like, the Christmas week, I'll probably have some more bowl games to bet on. And like Louisville USC, Texas A&M, Oklahoma State. Like, Oklahoma State's probably going to kill them. SMU, BC, Fenway Bowl, Rutgers, and Miami for the Italian Bowl. NC State, Kansas State should just be a fun, gritty game. So, Arizona, Oklahoma. Arizona, I'm betting crap out of Arizona, I'll tell you that. But lots of games coming up to bet. Lots of games. Should be having lots of fun with them. So, thank you, everybody, for listening. Leave a like, share it, all that good stuff. And yeah, peace.